Hey, what's going on everyone? Sam here with Lake Pro Tackle. Guys, we've got an amazing video going on today. We're gonna be covering A-rigs, Alabama rigs, umbrella rigs, whatever you wanna call them. We're here in Texas, so we are allowed 5 hooks on these. You know, if you're in a different state around the country where your laws are a little different, maybe it's only 3 hooks or a single hook, you can modify these exactly how you want them. We're gonna be going over the 3 different types of A-rigs that are generally thrown. You know, first off, starting, we've got a bladed one, and this has got blades on it. This is the Yum Flash Mob Jr. We're gonna be going over a couple without any blades, any dummies on it. And then we've got one right here that has dummies on it as well. You know, they make a whole bunch of different Alabama rigs, whether they be 5-wire, or whether they be 3-wire. And you know, there's a bunch of different configurations that you can do to maximize the effect of your Alabama rig to catch more fish. So we're gonna go ahead and start off talking about the different types of A-rigs and how I like to fish them in certain situations, where they can shine, where they might not do as well, and definitely the conditions that you want to throw them in. Okay, so starting off, we're gonna talk about this guy here. This is the Yum Flash Mob Jr. Like I said earlier, it's got 4 blades, 5 wires on it. You can put as many jig heads as you want on here. And you know, I'm gonna really start throwing these Alabama rigs, any of these here, when the water dips below that 55 mark. Generally, when that 55 mark comes, the turnover is already done, the fish are starting to separate out, either hug near the bottom or suspend in the water column looking for bigger meals. And what better to do that than present them something that imitates a big ball of bait. Now starting off with this one, again, it's got 4 blades on it, and when I bring out a bladed umbrella rig, it's generally if I'm around a lot of bait. So if I'm not seeing a lot of bait on my down scan or my forward-facing sonar, I'm generally gonna pick up something without blades. I think the blades provide a lot more vibration, and it's a less finesse way to present your bait. But it is great at mimicking that big shad ball. And if they're chasing around bait, chasing around a lot of stuff, having that extra vibration, and if you're in muddier water or dirtier water, you know, not quite dirty, but just a little stained, having these blades can help those fish key in on it very, very well. So this guy here, generally, I'm gonna be throwing it where the water clarity is anywhere from around 2 foot to around 5 to 7 foot. There's really no maximum or really minimum water clarity that you can throw an Alabama rig, but you do want the water clarity to be a little bit clear so they can see it or at least feel it, and that's what the blades help with. Now, if I'm throwing around fish that are just suspended, kind of doing nothing, you see them on your forward-facing sonar, just kind of cruising around, I will generally start off with a unbladed Alabama rig. I will still have 5 different swim baits on it. Here in Texas, we can do that. If not, you know, you'll have maybe 2 dummies on top and then 3 jig heads on the bottom if you're, you know, if you're in a state where that's allowed. You know, having no blades on it allows you to present the bait very subtly. When I'm fishing this kind of Alabama rig here, I'm not gonna put this bait very close to that fish's face a lot of the time because you're not having those blades, you're not having that pulse like this one does to get that fish to react to it. This is more of a hunger bite, something where I want that fish to key in on it from a distance, look at it and say, I wanna go eat that. And if I'm doing this, I'm gonna be throwing a little bit bigger style swim baits. So these guys right here, these are 3-inch baits that we have at the Worm Bar here at the shop, and all these baits here will be linked down below each of these Alabama rigs, but this guy is a 3-inch bait. It's not very big compared to some of the other bait that you'll see. Generally, I'm throwing anywhere from 3 to 5.5 inches on my swim bait, so this one is a little bit smaller. So this is something that I won't generally use in terms of throwing the non-bladed Alabama rig, but this is a great one to throw at 3 to 3.5 inches on something that has blades on it, because those blades are smaller. This is a bigger profile that will contrast those blades. So the fish will key in on the little bit bigger bait with the smaller blades, as opposed to one that doesn't have blades. You might want to throw a little bit bigger baits. It's going to have a lot more draw. Matching this up on here, this is a 4.5-inch swim bait, and I'm going to run 5 of these on this Alabama rig here, just so I have a bigger presence. And you always want to make sure on your Alabama rigs, and this is a really good tip here, I use this day in and day out. I've broken a lot of these over the years, and a lot of it comes down to how you care for your A-rigs and how you get them right out of the package and use them. You see, one of the big things, one of my pet peeves with the Yum ones straight out of the package is that right here, right by the head, these wires are almost crimped at a straight angle. And over time, when you wear those out, you know, they're gonna bend a lot, you know, these fish are gonna just try to tear them up. You will end up finding that these break very easily over a couple of uses. So to help fix that, what you can do is I like to start by closing them up, moving them closer to that middle wire, and that's gonna eliminate that harsh angle. Now what I'll do now is, in order to get that spread out that you want with an Alabama rig, is I'm gonna line it up perpendicular to the ground on where I want it to go outwards. And I'm gonna take my thumb and my index finger, and I'm going to push down with my thumb. I'm gonna put my index finger under the wire. I'm gonna put my thumb right in front of it, like this, and I'm going to almost roll it out. Roll that wire out, pushing up with my index finger and pushing down with my thumb to bend the wire in almost like a graph, like an exponential graph. And that will save you a lot of money in the long run as you spread your wires out. So I'm gonna do that on these blades here, or on these wires here, excuse me. So I'm gonna bend them out like that, just kind of working them down, trying not to put too much force on that wire to where it causes a stress fracture or anything like that. And just like that, your Alabama rig is now ready to fish. The wires you see here are very spread out. There's a good amount of distance between each swim bait when you put those on. And after you're done with this, you can kind of tweak them and kind of pull them in whatever direction you want. Maybe you want these bottom ones to be spread out widthwise more. You just push them out a little bit, pull them down a little bit more, just like that. If you want the top ones to be a little tighter, push them in together without messing up the angle. And there you go. It's very easy to do, and it will save you, I promise you, it will save you a lot of time and hassle on the water. So right there is one of my biggest tricks to saving and elongating the life of my Alabama rigs. Now I'm gonna show you here, we're gonna build one of my favorite ways to throw an Alabama rig, and it's with the dummy baits. And this one here is very similar to the bladeless A-rig. However, this one, I really like to fish it in either situation. Having the dummies on presents a bigger presence of bait, and I will still not put this one in the fish's face most of the time because it's a big bait school. I want to make sure they see it and are able to key in on it and say, yes, I want to eat that. And once they start committing to my bait, then I might put a little, you know, twitch here and there, try to get them to react. And we're gonna go ahead and build this. So this guy right here is the Picasso Perfections E-Schooler rig with the dummy screw locks on it, basically. So with this rig here in particular, it's got 4 dummy screw locks on it, 5 wires, 5 hook holders. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to take the screw locks off the bottom 2, and all you have to do is just unscrew them like normal. It's just a screw lock. So you don't have to get any, you know, big pliers or anything to get these off. I'm gonna save these here. And what we're gonna do with them is actually put them on top. We're gonna put them back on the rig, but on top. So I'm gonna have 3 hooks, 3 swim baits on the bottom here, and then 4 decoys up top. And you can take the clip off. I don't like a lot of stuff on my A-rig, so sometimes one of our lake pros, actually, he will take off these splits and put on, or he will take off the snaps and put split rings on instead to attach his swim baits. But we're not gonna do that right now. We're gonna go ahead and undo these snaps on top. This is very minimal modification. You don't waste anything, you don't take anything off without putting it back on. So now that we've got those screw locks off the bottom 2 wires and put them on the top where the swim baits, where you'd attach your swim baits normally, you've got 5 wires again, nothing but just a little attachment at the bottom here. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and put our dummy swim baits on. And you know, the dummy swim baits, I generally will have them a lot smaller than any of the other swim baits. You know, the 3-inch size is a great size to put on just because it doesn't have a lot of draw presence on it. A lot of those fish, when they see it, they're not as interested in it. And I want to make sure I pair these up with the bottom swim baits that I want the fish to eat. I'm going to pair that up with something that's a lot bigger, something in that 4.5 to 5.5 inch range. So as we're putting these on here, I want to remind you that all the stuff can be found at lakeprotackle.com, guys. We've got a sale on motivated baits every Sunday. You can order those online, 50% off. That's an awesome opportunity to get some super cool baits in. Family owned, faith-based guys, motivated baits, go check them out. So now that we've got those 4 dummy swim baits on, that's what it looks like. And now we're gonna go ahead and attach our swim baits. And you always want to make sure to have a different swim bait in the middle. So this one here is a little chartreuse, a little blue, kind of like a sexy shad pattern. And the other ones on the side are gonna be just your typical shad looking, kind of like a mouse by Reaction Innovation there. Nothing too flashy on the sides, the other ones that might get eaten. Generally, you're gonna find that the fish that eat your Alabama rigs are only gonna eat the bottom 2 or middle. So I'm gonna spread these out again. I'm gonna do that same technique where I just work down that wire, and they're gonna spread out a lot better for me. There we go. And then with the top ones, I really wanna make sure that these have a lot of room to move outwards and away from the fish. So I'm gonna bend these very, very high. And I wanna make sure a lot of the times when people put dummy rigs on, their wires are too close together, or they're not at a big enough angle. So what happens is that this swim bait here will start kicking that swim bait in the back. So you wanna make sure these are very nice and tall, facing up to the sky, so that way they both swim like this and they don't interfere with each other. So this right here is gonna be my ideal A-rig. Now weight is up to you. Whatever jig heads you use, that's up to you. I prefer putting 1/8 ounce jig heads on the bottom, and then I will match whatever weight I need in the middle. So that way it always sits on the bottom with these 2 1/8 ounce here. And then I might put something as even heavy as a 1/2 ounce in the middle. So that way I can slow roll it at the speed I need to, at the depth I need to. And that right there is gonna be my A-rig of choice 90% of the time. If not, it's gonna be one without anything on it, just 5 swim baits, 5 hooks. But that guy right there is going to absolutely slay them. I've been slaying them for a couple months now on this rig, and you know, I just gave you my secret sauce. So if you're looking for A-rig fish, like I said, finding drop-offs, finding creek channel bends, anywhere they can suspend like a flat. They might be on the bottom there, they might be on a stump. A lot of the time, if you're in standing timber, they're gonna hold really tight to that standing timber, and having a big rig like this here is not a small Alabama rig. This is a pretty good sized Alabama rig, and having that draw, that ability to find fish and have them move off and look at your bait, it's a great way to get bit in the wintertime, and it's super fun. Generally, I will be throwing a rod longer than 7'6". You can do it a lot of different ways. Something like this Flashmob Junior here, you can get away with something in the 7-foot range pretty easily. Something like this that's gonna be a lot bigger, a lot heavier. I'm gonna say a 7'6" medium heavy to heavy rod is what I want, and I don't want a super fast action. I want a more moderate action. That way I can load into them. Like I said, I'm using smaller jig heads or smaller wire hooks on my baits here. So all I have to do is just reel them, feel a tick, reel into them, and barely pull just like that. I'm not setting this hook super hard on them. I don't need to. And personally, I believe that the more stuff you have on your Alabama rig, the more it scares that fish away. But this guy right here, great bait. Make sure to check with your local and state laws on what you can throw in terms of how many hooks, how many wires, how many blades, and all that. You don't want to get in trouble with the law. But guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want some more information about Alabama rigs, comment them down below. You know, I'm down there in the comments every day looking at them, checking analytics and stuff. And you know, we'd love if you subscribe to the channel here, Lake Pro Tackle, guys. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook as well. You're gonna get updates on when new stuff comes out, whether it be tackle, rods, reels, anything like that, as well as sills and other cool stuff. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time at Lake Pro Tackle.